Have you ever had a moment that could change everything? A simple question that opens the door to possibilities you'd almost forgotten existed. If you've ever felt that mix of hope and hesitation, this story might just resonate with your soul. Like, subscribe, and join me on this journey of unexpected connections and second chances. The first time I saw her watering those ridiculous purple flowers, I nearly dropped my son's lunchbox. Something about the way the morning light caught in her hair reminded me of someone I used to know, someone from before life had thrown its hardest punches, before I became the man who measured his days in school drop-offs, work deadlines, and bedtime stories. "Good morning, neighbor." Her voice carried across our adjoining yards with a warmth that seemed out of place in our quiet suburban street where most people barely managed a nod of acknowledgement. "Morning," I replied, adjusting my tie with one hand while balancing my coffee and Tommy's forgotten science project in the other. 6 years of single parenting had made me an expert at this precarious juggling act. She smiled, and I hurried to my car, already running late for a meeting. That was our routine for weeks: brief greetings, polite smiles, and me always rushing somewhere. Until that rainy Tuesday when everything shifted. I was struggling with groceries, Tommy trailing behind me complaining about the rain soaking through his favorite sneakers, when she appeared on her porch. "Need a hand?" she called out, already making her way toward us with an umbrella. "We're good," I started to say, but Tommy had already accepted her offer, chattering away about his day at school as if they were old friends. "I'm Ellie," she said, helping us carry bags to the door. "I've been meaning to properly introduce myself." "James," I replied, "and this chatterbox is Tommy." "Dad's always saying I talk too much," Tommy informed her solemnly, "but he talks to himself all the time when he thinks I'm not listening." Ellie laughed, and I felt a flush of embarrassment warm my cheeks. "7-year-olds," I explained, "no filter." "The best kind of people," she replied, her eyes crinkling at the corners. After that day, Ellie became a fixture in our lives. She was a high school art teacher who had moved to our neighborhood after her divorce was finalized. Tommy adored her, especially when she helped him with his art projects, transforming his stick figures into characters with personality. "Your son is incredible," she told me one evening as we sat on my back porch. Tommy had finally fallen asleep after an hour of negotiation and 3 bedtime stories. "He has such an imagination." "Gets it from his mother," I said, the words slipping out before I could catch them. I rarely mentioned Sarah to anyone. Ellie didn't push, just nodded and sipped her wine. "How long has it been?" she asked quietly. 5 years, 8 months, and 12 days, I answered, surprising myself with the precision. "Car accident. Tommy was just turning 2. She reached across the space between our chairs and squeezed my hand briefly. "I'm sorry." "We're doing okay," I said, the response automatic after years of reassuring concerned relatives and friends. "Tommy's happy, healthy, that's what matters." "And what about you, James? Are you okay?" The question caught me off guard. People usually stopped asking about my well-being once they saw that Tommy was thriving. I'd become invisible in my own story, just Tommy's dad, the reliable single father who had it all together. I started, then faltered. "I'm managing." Ellie nodded, understanding filling the silence between us. We talked about easier things after that. Her students' ridiculous excuses for late assignments, my impossible deadlines at work, Tommy's upcoming school play where he'd been cast as a tree with exactly 1 line. Weeks passed, and Ellie slipped into our lives so naturally that I barely noticed the transition. She'd join us from movie nights, bringing homemade popcorn that put my microwave packets to shame. She taught Tommy to make paper airplanes that actually flew and listened to my work complaints with genuine interest. One Saturday morning, she appeared at our door with paint supplies and a determined expression. "Your living room is depressing. I've decided it needs color." "Have you now?" I looked at my son, who nodded enthusiastically. "Dad, it's been gray forever. Mom wouldn't like it," he added, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "She loved yellow." My heart clenched. Tommy remembered so little about Sarah, just fragments pieced together from photos and stories I'd told him. But he was right. She had loved yellow. "Sunshine yellow," I murmured. "Exactly," Ellie exclaimed. "Tommy showed me the photo albums. I hope that's okay." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. The thought of them looking through those memories together should have bothered me, but somehow it didn't. By evening, my living room glowed with warmth. Tommy had paint in his hair and a smile that hadn't dimmed all day. After he went to bed, Ellie and I collapsed on the couch, surveying our work. "Thank you," I said simply. "This place hasn't felt like a home in a long time." "Sometimes we need someone else to help us see what's missing," she replied, her shoulder resting lightly against mine. The air between us changed, charged with something I hadn't felt in years. I shifted slightly, creating distance, and saw a flicker of disappointment cross her face. "I should go," she said, standing up. "Early church tomorrow." I walked her to the door, awkwardness suddenly filling spaces that had been comfortable moments before. "Good night, Ellie." "Good night, James." I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart racing with panic and possibility. I wasn't ready for this, whatever this was becoming. The next few days I made excuses when Ellie invited us over. I left earlier for work, came home later. Tommy noticed immediately. "Why aren't we seeing Miss Ellie?" he demanded over breakfast. "Did you have a fight?" "No, buddy. I've just been busy with work." "You're lying," he said, with the devastating accuracy children sometimes possess. "Your eyebrow does the thing when you lie." I touched my traitorous eyebrow. "It's complicated, Tommy." "Grown-ups always say that when they're being stupid," he informed me, returning to his cereal. A week of avoidance later, I was mowing the lawn when Ellie appeared at the fence. She looked different, her hair pulled back severely, her usual smile absent. "Tommy said you're being stupid," she called over the noise of the mower. I turned it off, wiping sweat from my forehead. He's at that age where he repeats everything. "He's worried he did something wrong, that we both did." Guilt washed over me. "It's not that." "Then what is it, James? Because 1 minute we were friends and the next you're acting like I'm radioactive." I gripped the mower handle tightly. "I'm not good at this, Ellie, whatever's happening between us." "And what exactly do you think is happening?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but it scares me." Her expression softened. "It scares me too. I wasn't looking for anything when I moved here, especially not a ready-made family next door." "We're not a package deal," I said quickly. "Aren't you?" She raised an eyebrow. "Because from where I'm standing, you and Tommy are the definition of a package deal, and that's not a bad thing, James." I stared at her, unable to find the right words. "Look," she continued, "I like you, both of you, but I'm not trying to replace anyone or rush anything. I just miss my friends next door." The simplicity of it, the honesty, disarmed me. "We miss you too." That evening, Ellie came over for dinner. Tommy monopolized the conversation, filling her in on everything she'd missed in the past week, as if it had been years. After he went to bed, we sat in the newly yellow living room, the silence comfortable again. "I'm sorry," I said finally. I panicked. "I noticed." Her smile took any sting from the words. "It's been just Tommy and me for so long. I don't know how to do this anymore. Let someone new in." "I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give," she said gently. "But I'd like to know if you'll ever be ready." The question hung between us, honest and unavoidable. I thought about Sarah, about the life we'd planned together, about the promises I'd made to her and to myself after she died. I thought about Tommy, growing up without seeing his father take chances or open his heart. "I don't know," I answered truthfully, "but I'd like to find out." Ellie nodded, accepting this incomplete answer with grace. "That's enough for now." Summer faded into fall,
and our careful friendship resumed with new awareness humming beneath the surface. We took Tommy to the Harvest Festival, carved pumpkins on my front porch, and started a tradition of Sunday dinners together. I found myself looking forward to these moments, planning for them, noticing the way Ellie's laugh made something long dormant in me stir to life. One crisp October afternoon, I was raking leaves when Tommy came tearing out of the house waving a paper in his hand. "Dad, Dad, I got the part!" he shouted, nearly tackling me in his excitement. "What part, buddy?" I asked, steadying him. "The lead in the Thanksgiving play. I'm not a tree this time. I'm the main pilgrim." "That's amazing!" I swung him around, his delight infectious. "We need to celebrate. Should we call Ellie?" "Already did. She's bringing ice cream." I set him down, suddenly aware of how naturally we both turned to her now, how seamlessly she'd become part of our celebrations.
When she arrived, carrying not just ice cream but a small pilgrim hat she'd made for Tommy to practice with, I felt something shift inside me, a wall crumbling that I'd built so carefully after Sarah died. That night, after Tommy had gone to bed, still wearing his pilgrim hat, Ellie and I sat on the porch swing. The evening was cool and she'd borrowed one of my sweaters, the sleeves hanging past her fingertips. "You know," she said, looking up at the stars, "when I first moved here, I was just trying to escape. My marriage had fallen apart, my ex got the house, and I just needed somewhere quiet to lick my wounds." "And instead you got us," I said, smiling. "Not exactly quiet." "No," she agreed, "but exactly what I needed, it turns out." She hesitated, then added, "Tommy told me something today, when we were practicing his lines." "Oh?" I braced myself. Tommy had been asking more questions about Sarah lately, sometimes sharing memories with Ellie that he hadn't even told me. "He said he's been praying for you to be happy again, that his mom would want that." My throat tightened. "He said that?" Ellie nodded. "He's pretty wise for a 7-year-old. "He gets that from Sarah, too," I whispered. We sat in silence for a while, the swing creaking gently beneath us. Finally, Ellie turned to face me. "Can I ask you something, James?" "Anything." "Are you happy? Not just managing, not just getting by for Tommy's sake, actually happy?" I considered the question seriously, looking back over the past months. "I'm getting there," I answered honestly. "For a long time I didn't think I deserved to be, like it would somehow dishonor Sarah's memory. And now? Now I think maybe the best way to honor her is to live fully, to show Tommy that love doesn't have to be finite, that there's always room for more." Ellie's eyes shimmered in the porch light. "That's a beautiful way to think about it." "I had help getting there," I said, reaching for her hand. The Thanksgiving play was a triumph, at least in the eyes of proud parents. Tommy forgot one line and improvised something about turkey rights that had the audience laughing. Ellie sat beside me, clapping until her hands were red, every bit as proud as I was. As we were leaving, Tommy ran ahead to the car while Ellie and I walked more slowly behind. "James," she said suddenly, stopping on the sidewalk, "I need to tell you something." The seriousness in her voice made my stomach clench. "What is it?" "I've been offered a position at an arts magnet school. It's an amazing opportunity, the kind that doesn't come along often." "That's wonderful," I said, meaning it, despite the dread building inside me. "Where is it?" "Chicago." The word fell between us like a stone. Chicago was hundreds of miles away. "When would you start?" I asked, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. "After winter break. I haven't accepted yet. I wanted to talk to you first." I nodded, trying to process what this meant. We'd never defined what we were to each other, never made promises or plans. I had no right to ask her to stay. "You should take it," I said, finally. "It's a great opportunity." "Is that all you have to say?" Ellie asked, disappointment evident in her voice. "What do you want me to say, Ellie? That I don't want you to go? That Tommy will be heartbroken? That I stopped, the words catching in my throat. "That you what, James?"
"That I'm falling in love with you," I admitted, the truth finally breaking free. "But I can't ask you to give up your dream for us. We've never even—" I gestured vaguely between us, unable to articulate the careful distance we'd maintained. "Asked me," she said quietly. "You've never asked me what I want." I stared at her, confusion replacing the resignation I'd felt moments before. "I want a reason to stay," she continued. "I want to know if there's something here worth building a future around. I want you to stop waiting and start living, James." "Dad, Miss Ellie, come on," Tommy called from the car, impatient with our delay. "We should go," I said, overwhelmed by the conversation. Ellie nodded, disappointment evident in the set of her shoulders. We drove home in silence, Tommy's excited chatter about his performance filling the car. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the yellow living room, thinking about Ellie's words. Was I still waiting? Had I been using Sarah's memory as a shield against the risk of loving again? I found myself in Tommy's room, watching him sleep. His face, so like Sarah's in repose, peaceful and trusting. He deserved to see his father embrace life fully, to know that grief doesn't have to be the end of joy. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in years. After dropping Tommy at school, I drove to the cemetery where Sarah was buried. I hadn't visited in months, something that once would have filled me with guilt. I sat by her headstone, tracing the letters of her name. "I need your help, Sarah," I whispered. "I'm trying to figure out how to move forward without leaving you behind." The cemetery was quiet, just the rustle of leaves and distant traffic. No divine answer came, no sign, just the peaceful certainty that Sarah, who had loved life so fiercely, who had made me promise to be happy again someday, would understand. I drove to the florist and bought a ridiculous bouquet of purple flowers, just like the ones Ellie had been watering the first time I noticed her. Then I went to her school and asked the office to tell her she had a visitor. When she appeared in the hallway, confusion gave way to surprise as she saw me standing there with flowers. "James, what are you doing here? Is Tommy okay?" "Tommy's fine," I assured her. "I'm here because I need to ask you something." Students streamed around us, some slowing to watch the drama unfold. Ellie crossed her arms, waiting. "I don't want you to go to Chicago," I said simply. "I want you to stay. Not just as our neighbor or Tommy's art mentor or my friend. I want you to stay because I love you, and I think we could build something beautiful together." Her eyes widened. "James!" "I know it's selfish," I continued. "I know you deserve that amazing job and all the opportunities that come with it, but I had to tell you how I feel before you decide. I had to stop waiting and start living, like you said." A small crowd had gathered now, teenagers whispering and nudging each other. Ellie seemed oblivious to them, her focus entirely on me. "You picked a very public place for this conversation," she said, a smile tugging at her lips. "I didn't want to give myself a chance to back out," I admitted. "I've been a coward,